Open and welcome you to the meeting of June 23. The recording of this council meeting will be available to the public on council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with council policy, I will now ask council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
Thank you, Sandy. I would first of all like to acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Malacca people, the traditional custodians of this land. Our Aboriginal people have a deep spiritual connection to country and they have cared for our waterways and our land for over 40,000 years in Tasmania. I would like to pay respects to their customs, elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Welcome to our gallery today. We have 2 visitors in the gallery. Thank you for your attendance. I would first of all like to introduce our councillors. So we have Deputy Mayor Doyle, Councillor Newell, Councillor O'May, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Lovell, Councillor Gibson and Councillor Prince. And introducing Acting General Manager Andrew Wardlaw. If you could just introduce the staff that are here this evening, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the Director of Corporate Services, David Spinks, Director of Environment and Development Services, Luke Chu, Acting Director, Infrastructure Services, Sue McCarter, Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson, Director of Legal and Governance Services, Matthew Grimsey. We also have with us Executive Assistant, Sandy Rustle, and ITC Officer, Michael Glazer.
Thank you very much, General Manager. We now move on to non-attendances, and there are nil apologies, nil leave of absence and nil absent. And now item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Councillors, are there any items on this agenda that you would like to declare a conflict of interest, or an interest, should I say? I actually do have an item. So I have listed my name against agenda item number 20.040/21, which is a item in closed session tonight. Thank you. We now move on to item 4, which is confirmation of minutes. Do I have a councillor to move the minutes for the ordinary meeting held on the 19th of May? Yes, thank you, Councillor Newell, and second, Councillor O'May. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present. Thank you. It's carried. We now move to item 5. There are no legislative items this evening. In item 6, there are no urgent matters. And now we move on to item 7, announcements. Do any councillors have any announcements this evening? No? I do have one. It is a lengthy one, so I will just read this out. So this announcement is about the departure from the Huon Valley Council of former Councillor Wilson. I was advised on the 16th of June 2021 by Acting General Manager Andrew Wardlaw that Councillor Mike Wilson was no longer eligible to nominate as a candidate under Section 270 of the Local Government Act 1993. This was because he was no longer on the electoral roll for the Huon Valley Council. Therefore, his office as a councillor is now vacant as set out in Clause 3(1)(f) of Schedule 5 of the Act. Councillors are required to be enrolled on the roll of electors for the Huon Valley municipal area, or if not enrolled within 30 days of the date, become enrolled on the General Manager's roll. The Tasmanian Electoral Commissioner has confirmed that Councillor Wilson is no longer on the electoral roll for the Huon Valley. Former Councillor Wilson was interviewed by Lucy Braden from ABC Drive Radio on the 16th of June 2021. He was also interviewed by the Mercury newspaper, with that interview published on the 17th of June 2021. In today's Huon News, an advertisement appears from former Councillor Wilson. These interviews and the advertisement are available from the named sources. In both interviews and in the advertisement, former Councillor Wilson made some serious accusations about the Huon Valley Council and their employees. Since the announcement on the 16th of June, members of the public have asked for transparency from Council and an explanation that would address the accusations made by former Councillor Wilson. Maintaining public trust is paramount to the Huon Valley Council. Due to the serious nature of accusations made by former Councillor Wilson, the Huon Valley Council must now respond to those inaccuracies. When former Councillor Wilson was interviewed by ABC Drive about placing his name on the General Manager's role, he provided the following responses. No, I wasn't informed that I had to do that. Nobody had actually said anything to me about it. I was not aware that I had to fill in a General Manager's role. I was first informed when I decided that we needed to move up here to be closer to medical services, and I was told that's okay. I was a ratepayer, and that was informed to me by the then General Manager, and that's obviously changed now. That has been kept from me, and I think, as I've said before, for me it's a vendetta to get rid of me, a long-serving councillor of the Huon Valley Council. There were 3 senior employees who've known about this for a number of weeks. All anybody had to do was say, Michael, you have to fill in the form. Please do that. I was never told, never informed. It's so wrong. I'm quite honestly astounded by the way that they have gone about this. I think it's very poor form on the part of the council. My personal view is that there has been for some time a vendetta to get rid of the likes of Mike Wilson, who has pretty much always been outspoken as far as council is concerned. I think this has been handled very, very badly by the Huon Valley Council, to be honest. I'm astounded that why somebody from council, we have 2 legal eagles, if you like, employed by this Huon Valley Council, it only needed one of them to come to me and say, Mike, there is a form that should be filled in, could you fill it in? But that has been kept from me. I've been kept in the dark all the way through on this, and that is the annoying part of it. Some hierarchy, if you like, of council have known about this for quite some time, I am told. On the 12th of April, I was supposed to effectively register on the General Manager's role. I was never informed of that. There is a 30-day response which left it to the 12th of May. I was not informed of that. Then amazingly, some 30 days later, which is now, that I have been dismissed. While the management of the Huon Valley Council are legally correct, they are most certainly morally wrong. A simple phone call from Council's legal department could have avoided this situation, and I cannot help but wonder what the motivation for not making that call could be. Firstly, in response, former Councillor Wilson was informed about the General Manager's role. I can confirm that no council staff member, including the General Manager or councillor, withheld information from former Councillor Wilson on this matter. Former Councillor Wilson telephoned an officer of council at some point prior to the sale of his house. It was at this time that former Councillor Wilson had requested advice regarding the General Manager's electoral roll enrolment and agreed that he would retrieve the form himself from the website. This is the recollection of 2 officers, not 1, but 2 officers that were present for this telephone conversation. The Acting General Manager only learned on Wednesday the 9th of June 2021 that former Councillor Wilson lived in Kingston, and there may be issues with his enrolment within the Huon Valley. The Acting General Manager, carrying out his role with due diligence, made an inquiry with the Electoral Commission on Thursday the 10th of June 2021 to check that former Councillor Wilson was registered to a Huon Valley address, and learned on Tuesday the 15th of June that the address was in fact a Kingborough Council address and was altered on the 12th of April 2021. This was the first indication that there was a serious problem with former Councillor Wilson's eligibility to be a councillor for the Huon Valley Council, and was some 64 days after former Councillor Wilson had changed his details on the electoral roll. Well past an opportunity for former Councillor Wilson to alter the events that have led to now. Council is not notified of any changes to the House of Assembly electoral roll. This is purely a transaction between the elector and the Electoral Commission. No staff member, including the General Manager or councillor, has the requirement to check the enrolment details of councillors. The councillor, as the individual, is responsible under the Act to manage their own affairs in relation to this matter. Council employees have acted in accordance with the requirements of the Act with appropriate probity and professionalism. Before I respond to the accusations of former Councillor Wilson regarding him feeling that there was a vendetta towards him, I would like to read out the Cambridge Dictionary definition for vendetta, which is a strong desire to harm a person or group, often because of political reasons or feelings of hate. I have seen no evidence in the Huon Valley Council that would demonstrate a vendetta towards former Councillor Wilson. Former Councillor Wilson has never reported to me in my role as Mayor that he felt that he was being treated unfairly or that he was being refused advice or help from officers of council, nor did he provide evidence that would uphold his accusation of there being a vendetta against him. Why would anyone on council, whether officer, councillor or councillor, orchestrate an event that would bring negative attention or indeed criticism of council? Haven't the officers of the Huon Valley Council and our community been through enough with the Board of Inquiry? To say that there is a vendetta against former Councillor Wilson is unfounded, but also goes against everything that your elected members would ever want to happen on this watch, on our watch. It is an incredibly sad day for the Huon Valley Council to make this public announcement. Much sadder now is the parting memory of this matter now being a permanent record of the Huon Valley Council. We can fully appreciate the magnitude of former Councillor Mike Wilson's hurt and shock of suddenly no longer being eligible to be a councillor. The news of former Councillor Wilson no longer being eligible to be a councillor on the Huon Valley Council came as a complete shock to everyone, including councillors, staff and myself. At a time when we should be celebrating the 20 years of service of one of our own, I've had to instead make a statement that clearly demonstrates the accusations made by former Councillor Wilson are unfounded and they're simply not true. It has been absolutely necessary to make this statement because his inaccuracies have spread throughout our community and have been hurtful to those that work for the Huon Valley Council and the need to preserve the reputation of this council. I have no further to say on the matter. If I am requested to do any interviews about this matter, I will be refusing those interviews because this council has a responsibility to its community to do the job that you elected us in to do, and that is to progress the matters and concerns of this community. But I needed to make the statement. Thank you. Right. So now we move on to Section 8, Public Participation, which is question time. And we have nothing that was taken on notice regarding previous questions, but we do have a question on notice, which is from C. Temby. And Kathy Temby's question is, the answer to my question regarding policing in the April 2021 HVC meeting was to direct me to the monthly Tasmanian Police Corporate Performance Report. However, this report raises more questions than answers. Huon Pride Together is seeking to provide feedback to Tasmania Police and HVC regarding the community's sense of safety and well-being and to receive advice on how well issues of concern are being addressed. We are not seeking confidential tactical information. How can the community attend the regular HVC meetings with the Kingston Division Police representatives? And Kathy, our response is the Tasmanian Police hold a workshop with elected members and council staff on a 6-monthly basis. The initial purpose of these workshops were to inform council of the activities of Tasmania Police and to investigate opportunities to work together. There has been a recent change in police personnel in the Southern Division, and as a result we will contact the new inspector to discuss opportunities for the community to attend regular meetings with Tasmania Police representatives, and we will certainly get back to Kathy on that matter. We now go into the section of questions without notice, and I do have some questions that we have received via email, so I'll read those out first of all. We have 2 questions from Bob Hawkins, and we have a question from, just let me see if it's 1 or 2, double check. 2 from Mr. Swan, yes? And is there any from the gallery? one each from the gallery? Can I just confirm, is it 1 each from you? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right. Okay, well, if it's 1 each from you, I might ask you to come forward first. Yes, if you'd like to come forward. And just state your name and where you're from, thank you.
Singh from Leamington, asking a question on behalf of the Huon Valley Residents and Ratepayers Association. And our question relates to the budget. As an aside, I would like to congratulate you on how clear the budget is. It's getting better every year. Even I can understand it. Well, most of it. But anyway, I note that the proposed rates increase of 4.95% is more than 4 times higher than the current annual inflation rate. But that aside, HVC has over $13 million in cash investments. This is losing value every day as interest rates are lower than inflation. This is not just something that has happened in the last few months, and the Reserve Bank has clearly indicated that it does not expect interest rates to rise in the foreseeable future. This was discussed at the last AGM, and a motion was passed unanimously calling on Council to urgently review its financial management policy. The response from Council at the next meeting was that, quote, any consideration of the utilisation of cash balances is premature, and that, quote again, taking some time to consider these matters will ensure that the Council is in an informed position in relation to future financial management plans and strategies, and that a new strategy and financial plan would be developed for presentation to Council in financial year 22-23. In the meantime, house prices are soaring, increasing by...
How much more preamble do you have,
just a little bit like that, just a little bit, in 10% in the last year alone. We all know that housing is in great demand in the Huon Valley and that developers and individuals are taking full advantage of the low interest rates and very significant government subsidies. Council owns prime real estate, and yet we see no evidence that it is even considering investing some of the $13 million held in cash. So, the question, through you, Mayor, to all councillors here tonight is, do you really consider that it is good financial policy for Council to hold such significant cash reserves when a portion of them could be safely invested in housing projects that would provide long-term and ongoing income for Council, provide local employment and training, and potentially improve living standards for some Huon Valley residents?
General Manager, I think if we took that one on notice, reason being is that it's not something that we've actually discussed specifically as a council, and I know we're working on a long-term financial strategy, and it's also, the budget report is a report tonight, unless that could be answered partially in that report.
Through you, Mayor, look, I guess the answer to the question really is it's a policy position about how you manage your cash, and I guess it would be a question for the financial management strategy, which is due to later this year. I will pick up on Mr. Singh's point there. I think he meant 21-22. The intention is that...
It said in the agenda, in the minutes of the meeting that dealt with the motion that was passed at the AGM, it said that a financial plan would be developed for presentation to council in financial year 22-23.
Yeah.
In response to that particular point is that the annual plan that's before council tonight, it is an intention to do the financial management strategy at the second half of this year, i.e. that the council should be receiving that financial management strategy, if not November, December, certainly early in 2022, which is next year, not 22-23.
Anyway, I just wanted to remind council of those facts. Thank you, councillors. Thank you. For
If you wanted to circulate your question as well to all the councillors so that they have it on record, then I would suggest that you perhaps do that by email.
Okay.
Because that's work that we're yet to have to do.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. Thank you. Yes, would you like to come forward?
Liz Smith, Signet. My question is in regard to agenda number 15.01621, where it stated that Mike Wilson's no longer a member of council. The circumstances of his departure from the council are not very clear and have been made somewhat more clear by your announcement this evening. So I would like to ask, through you, Mayor, when did the General Manager or Acting General Manager become aware that Mr Wilson was not on the GM's roll, and what steps did he take immediately to inform Mr Wilson of the situation, either verbal or in writing, and what evidence is there that this happened? And if Mr Wilson was not informed immediately, why not?
Right, I will go right straight through to the Acting General Manager. And did you want my... Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah. Through you, Mayor, certainly there was a discussion with myself and an officer on the 9th of June as the Mayor made her announcement in relation to whether there was an issue associated with Councillor Wilson. Obviously, we needed to take time to understand what the situation was, so we approached the Electoral Commission on Thursday the 10th of June, and they got back to us on Tuesday the 15th of June with evidence that suggested that there was an issue associated with Councillor Wilson being on the electoral roll. That's when I had the evidence to suggest we had an issue, and I spoke with Councillor Wilson the next day, being Wednesday the 16th of June. So I didn't have anything to go to Mr Wilson with until receiving information on the 15th of June, which I needed to process and understand and do research on, and then the next day I spoke with Councillor Wilson personally about the situation.
So can I just follow up by asking how long Mr Wilson was on the council but not eligible to be a councillor?
As the Mayor announced in the announcement, the actual electoral roll amendment was done on the 12th of April 2021, and that was the date that we created an issue that he was no longer on the Huon Valley Municipal roll.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Right, now go to the other questions given without notice. Bob Hawkins, Petcheys Bay, question 1. My question concerns agenda number 15016/21, General Manager Recruitment Panel. Following community concerns about Council's failure in 2009 and 2013 to volunteer without public pressure how many applicants there had been for the position of General Manager. On each occasion, as I recall, Council reluctantly revealed those numbers. There were 44 applicants in 2009 and 29 in 2013. Obviously, the idea of winning the top local government job in our lovely municipality is very attractive, although applications for the position of General Manager closed on May 17 last. Council again has failed to reveal to the public the number of applicants for the vacant GM position. There is great public interest in the filling of this top staff position at Council, and many ratepayers and residents interested in local government matters are eager to be kept informed of the recruitment process's progress. There cannot possibly be any possible breach of security in Council revealing the applicants' numbers. It's not as if we are asking for names and addresses. How many applications for the position of GM were received by the closing date, May 17? What progress to date has been made by the General Manager Recruitment Panel in assessing the applications and shortlisting candidates? And why is it that Council once again has to be asked for these numbers rather than Council simply making them available without waiting to be asked? And the response is, the Council has appointed Red Giant to assist the General Manager Recruitment Panel to find the best candidate to fill the role of General Manager of the Huon Valley Council. The panel is working diligently with Red Giant following the agreed recruitment process, and the panel is consulting the full Council at the appropriate times through this process. There are no plans to undertake any community consultation during the process. It is unusual for any employer, public or private, to disclose details of process, including candidate numbers, and it's not my intention to do so. I cannot see how this would provide any community benefit. At the conclusion of the process, and once a General Manager has been appointed, a media statement will be made to inform the community of the outcome. The second question from Mr Hawkins is, how many applicants are Tasmanian residents and how many are from the mainland and beyond? And my response is, Red Giant has advertised the position broadly across Australia, and the consultant will be shortlisting the best candidate for, or candidates, should I say plural, for the panel and ultimately for the Council to consider. Thank you, Mr Hawkins. We now move on to the last two questions. Mr Swan, Jeffrey Swan of Lonna Vale. Question 1. In 2014, Mayor Peter Code raised with Council his concerns about the rising cost of staffing. It was at a time when wages of some $10 million was greater than the incoming Council revenue. There was no support for his concerns. At the 19th of May 2021 Huon Valley Council meeting, Councillor Wilson raised the issue of Council finances and advised, as I recall, Council wages are currently running at 54% of total costs and 48% turnover. He then mentioned Kingborough Council are running at a much lower 38% of total costs. Given the ongoing concern of rising wage costs, would Council please advise what is our Council considering with a view to rein in those costs? Will any measures include CPI increases rather than the recent 6% increase? The reviewing of staff numbers and evaluating the performance of the various business units. And our response is, Council is in the progress of reviewing the long-term financial strategy that will consider all financial activities of the Council, including Council's service delivery and the financial requirements, including salaries, to support this. The following action has been included in the draft annual plan to support the process, and that is, undertake a review of service provision models to inform the development of a financial management strategy. In relation to some of the percentages mentioned, it must be remembered that no two organisations are alike. Just as an example, this Council operates two important community services that do distinguish it from most other councils, and they are children's services and medical services. These alone contribute around 23% of Council's total employee costs. When comparisons such as the one to Kingborough are made, differences such as these need to be understood. And that's why the long-term financial plan is so critical and the work that we will undertake in that area. Thank you. So now we move on to the last question. With the departure of Councillor Wilson, the GM, and this is from Mr Swan, with the departure of Councillor Wilson, the GM selection panel is now looking at the next in-line member of the panel being Councillor Lovell, or taking another vote, as is on tonight's agenda. As has already been mentioned during public question time over the past two meetings, the selection of a new General Manager is perhaps the most important task of our current Council. It is noted that there appears to be very little, if any, recruitment experience in the proposed GM team. As a ratepayer and somebody deeply interested in matters of local governance, this is of great concern. I understand there will be assistance from a recruitment person, however they are only as good as their brief. As a suggestion, will the panel invite and allow members of our community, many of whom will have senior management and hands-on recruitment experience, to submit questions and suggestions to the GM panel that might be appropriate to ask of any income General Manager in order to assist in this most challenging and important task? And the response to Mr Swan is that no, this invitation will not be made. The panel will be guided by the engaged recruitment agency in relation to interview questions to be asked that address the selection criteria for the position. Questions that do not relate to the selection criteria would not be asked at any interview, and the answers would not be considered relevant to the recruitment. There would also be no position to report back to those who asked the questions of the answers that were given to those questions, if asked at the interview. Inviting questions in this case would be disingenuous. Thank you for the questions. And now we move on to 8.2, deputation addresses to council. There are none. Petitions, number 9, there are none. We now move on to item 10, general reports. And the first report on the list is the General Manager's Operation Report. Do you have anything that you would like to say on that report, Andrew?
No, thank you, Mayor. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for the Acting General Manager on that? No? Okay. Then there's the Mayor's Enders Activities Report. Just a one pager this time. I really don't have anything to say to it. Are there any questions on that? No? Thank you. We now move to the 2020-2021 Quick Response Community Recovery Grants application list. That would be normally with the Director of Community Services. Did you want to say anything on that? Happy to take questions. Any questions on that, councillors? That particular item? No? Arts and Culture Committee meeting minutes for the 19th of May. We do have the chair here, Councillor Campbell. Did you wish to speak to that at all?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'd just actually like to welcome 3 new people onto the committee, Gemma O'Rourke, Craig Snell and Eliza Hart. We had a very productive meeting down at Gibson in the town hall down there. It was a bit of a trial to see going around to the different townships and how we could engage with more people, around the arts. The council have been successful in getting a mentorship grant for some artists to be the mentors and have some mentees. That's a very exciting opportunity. And the cultural awareness training that we had last Friday was really good. It was run by UTAS in conjunction with the Arts and Culture Committee, and it was a very informative session, and hopefully we could run something like this again, because it was just very much a hands-on activity which really brought home the reality of what it was like for Tasmanian Aboriginals to lose a lot of their land, and it was quite confronting actually. But I'd just like to say that it's a wonderful committee to work with. They're all so vibrant and interested in what they're doing, and they're really great volunteers. So I just want to thank them for their time, and it's a pleasure to be the chair. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that update. We now move on to the audit panel meeting minutes in open for the 1st of June 2021. We have 2 councillors here that are representatives on that panel. Both Sally and Christine.
Yes. Yes, it's. I think we're very fortunate to have 2 very good independent audit panel members, Mike Derbyshire and Cam Jones. We discussed a number of things that have been happening with the council, particularly around the strategies and aligning the strategies together, and looking at the financial management, and there's a lot of actually positive stuff happening behind the scenes, and I think that obviously with any organisation, you know, sometimes things crop up that you need to address, and I can see that Mike and Cam actually do an excellent job. They ask very incisive questions, and that's very beneficial for us, and I hope that, you know, we can start to feel, you know, that we're really getting on track with a lot of the things now, and it feels like it's just becoming a lot more professional in the way that they're dealing with, you know, issues that are coming up. But I can see that the staff are working hard towards the, you know, the financial management strategies, the strategy itself, the annual plan, community vision, and all of those documents are really, you know, critical to how, you know, we move forward. So, yes, it was always a very good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And very long.
So the next item is the Taswater Quarterly Report to owner representatives. It's a progress update, which they provide on a quarterly basis. And then there's also the Southern Tasmanian Council Authority STA meeting minutes. The last STCA meeting was held here in the hub in Huonville. It was well attended by mayors and also general managers from around the south, from the member councils. And we also had the 2 representatives from the city still attend to give us an update about that. That's all in the minutes, enclosed in the minutes as well. And I did a presentation on behalf of council about the recent key priority projects that we've received funding for, as well as tourism projects in the far south, and CTAC also being awarded for $150,000 to do an interpretive part of their centre over at Nichols Rivulet as well. So, and of course Port Esperance Sailing Club, they were awarded the full amount so that they could complete their building, which is lovely for the Dover community as well. Any questions from those? No? Okay. So do I have a councillor to move a motion that the... Oh, sorry, I did neglect to ask a question. Sorry, my apologies. Are there any councillors that would like to table any activities of their own this evening? Our activity reports. No. Did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I attended, I officiated the citizenship a couple of weeks ago. Oh, how long ago? Last week, I think it was. Yeah, and we had 12, and I know that the young lady, Winnie, from the nail shop down here in Huonville, the smile on her face has been great ever since. So, yeah, that was great. And I attended the concert with Amnesty, the Huon group of Amnesty, and it was so enjoyable that the young man that played at the end, who I should imagine goes to Paraguay, does he? Yeah. Yes, yep. He was just delightful, and they let him play the guitar like Mick Jagger with no rhythm or tune, but he had the stage, so it was wonderful. So I thank them and commend them on the effort that they do down there. Yeah. So thank you.
It's a very big movement, Amnesty International, in the Cygnet area. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period 1 to 31 May 21 be received and noted? Yes, Councillor Campbell, and seconded by Councillor O'May. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll put that to the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to item 11, council workshops, and I'll hand over to the Acting General Manager just to go through those.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yes, there's been 4 workshops since the last council meeting. One on the 20th of May, which was a discussion on the budget preparations. Then we had a budget workshop on the 26th of May. Then we had another discussion on the budget again on the 2nd of June, and we presented the draft annual plan to Council on the 9th of June, which is in the agenda tonight, and also had a discussion in relation to the lease associated with Sydney Medical Centre on the 9th of June.
And then on the 16th of June. Oh, it's on the next page.
My apologies, I have turned the page. Yes, and certainly on the 16th of June, just last week, we spoke about the Franklin Foreshore development and also the Huon Valley brand presentation.
Thank you. We now move on to item 12, which is councillor questions. So we do actually have questions taken on notice. We have two this evening. One was from me in regards to accidents and near misses on our council roads. If members of, would you prefer to read this out, Andrew, these two? Okay, it's a bit funny reading my own question out and answer, doesn't it, really? Yeah, I think it does sound better if you do it.
Through you, Mayor, in relation to that response, the information is not recorded in our asset system. This information is managed by the Department of State Growth, and statistical information is available to the public on their website. Do you want to go to the next question while I'm here?
Yes,
Me?
please.
So the next question was from former Councillor Wilson in relation to how many council staff provide support to the Gibson Town Hall Company, and the response to that question is that the support to the Gibson Town Hall is provided by one staff member as part of their broader council role. And remiss us to say that also the General Manager is also on the board as well, but yeah, as a board member.
Thank you. And we now go to questions without notice. Are there any councillors that have a question without notice this evening? No? All right, thank you. We move straight into our reports then for this evening. The first report is adoption of the 2021-2022 budget estimates, annual plan and rates and charges. Agenda number 15.012/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendations of this report, which you'll find at the end of the report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor O'May. And a seconder, please. Councillor Doyle. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to make a amendment, and my recommendation, Mayor, is that we move to 3.5%. I have a number of reasons for that.
Sorry, if you could just wait for one moment, just for a procedural matter. Oh, okay. We have a procedural concern because you've already moved the actual recommendation that's written here, and so you can't now move an amendment to the motion. Hang on, we'll get some more advice. Because that's be a new motion. Yeah.
So technically you didn't say what motion was to put that in the motion. The second one was to support that.
He can do it right now. Okay, all right. Sorry, we'll correct that. You can put forward an amended motion now, at this point? Because nobody's seconded it yet.
We just have to get confirmation of the seconder, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Get on the seconder.
Councillor Doyle.
What's in there?
So you would have to be, Councillor Doyle would have to be willing to, you've heard what the amended motion is, and you may want to support it just to get it spoken about and then vote on it, or you may withdraw from being a seconder for the amended motion.
I'll let him speak.
Yep, all right, so you'll second it?
Yes.
Okay, so we're putting forward an amended motion, Councillor O'May is, to reduce the rate down to what percentage, please?
3.5%, Mayor.
3.5%. All right, would you like to have some opening remarks to explain that? You have 3 minutes, I think it is.
Yes, I would, Mayor. The reasons for this recommendation are many. Firstly, I would like to congratulate our Director of Finances as doing a very good job with the budget and the presentation that we have. But I must say some of the reasons I will table for this decision, and some of those are the fact that we are just coming through COVID, and as we see, last year we had a freeze on on rates increases. I still believe that we are not out of this crisis as yet. Some members of the community are doing very well. There's still a lot of other members that are struggling and playing catch up from the financial hardships that have been implied on some people because of this pandemic. And I believe we're not by far out of the woodwork. As we've just seen with the Victorian situation, a lot of these people have been in lockdown, and we don't know when it's potential that we could come back into that situation. There are other reasons, and I will stipulate what they are. The fact that that it has come to my attention through other members of the community that they believe that we should be spending more of our money on, or directing more of our money to services in roading, and they want to see more of their rate money put back into pick and shovel and hands-on work within the community. So I believe with the proportion of money that we have going into wages being over 50%, has been outlined by, I think it was Mr Swan in his previous correspondence. People are getting back to me and they're unhappy with this process. They want to see more money going back into, as I've suggested, work on the ground, the coalface, as they've quoted to me.
Half a minute left.
So anyway, I just want to put it out there for discussion, and I believe people would be prepared to go to a greater level of levy increase if they can see some portions of the money directed back towards them. So I believe we should discuss around this table how we can implement that to get some confidence by the people in this council in our spending.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right. So just confirming the percentage is 3.5. Was that what you were 3.5 you were proposing?
3.5 I proposed.
Right,
yeah.
okay, all right.
We have inflation,
Yep.
which has been
That's-
running at, in Hobart, 4.8% over the last 2 years, which equates to 2.4% a year. We missed out last year, so 3.5% is not going to come across the line for a 2-year up with CPI. So I believe 3.5%, if the money is going to be going wholly and solely into wages, is quite sufficient.
All right, thank you. I'll now go around to see if anybody wants to speak. Councillors may want to speak, they may not want to speak. It's up to you, and then we'll go to the vote. Councillor Neal.
Thank you for your amended motion, Councillor O'May. I've got to say I can't support the motion. I think we've done virtually 4 workshops on it, and the wages side of things is a bit of a furpy. 23% of the wages, as we were explained, are taken up with community services and the childcare and the doctors' clinics. Now, those 23% of the wages are fully covered with income, so you could actually drop the 50% down to 75, down to around 35% of total money coming in. I think we do want to get the budget back into surplus, and that's going to take, even at 4.95%, that's going to take 8 to 9 years. I think a zero increase last year, even at 4.95% this year, I think is a really fair rate rise. And personally, I think we've workshopped it and negotiated down to 4.9%. So that's just my reasons, and with all due respect.
Thank you. Any other councillors to speak? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
I'm pleased that in the annual plan we made a shift to of emphasis to include quality services, and I think Mark, you, Councillor O'May, you've got some good points about core services, and I think we should really be focusing on those. However, reducing the income, I don't think helps us to be able to rectify some of the problems with the roads and services. And I have to agree with Councillor Newell that we have been backwards and forwards on this a number of times and found a spot that I feel comfortable with.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lovell?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say as well, I do agree with Councillor Newell on this one, and add in that's, you know, through COVID and going forward, that's why we have our hardship policy for residents who may struggle to pay. Yeah, so there are options, and I do agree that this is fair. After having a rate freeze last year, I do think we've got it right.
Sorry, Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Prince. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you for putting that forward, Councillor O'May. I understand your sentiments exactly. It's a big thing to, you know, have to increase rates at a difficult time. I do think that we could possibly do a workshop so that we can look at maybe the hardship policy and maybe make some adjustments in that, because, you know, if we do have people who are even paying it off and they might be struggling, I'd actually like to see us do something like that to just be proactive in that area, because I think the important thing is that, you know, we have workshopped a lot, and I think the figure we came to is it's probably more than we hoped for, but I think it's reasonable and fair. So thank you for raising your concerns.
Councillor Prince?
Firstly, thank you, Councillor, all three of you. Thank you, Councillor O'May, for your amendment. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I can understand. Certainly for some people, it can be challenging because their circumstances don't improve annually, and rates certainly do tend to increase. But as Councillor Lovell did state, we do have that hardship policy, and I believe that does do a lot of good to support our community. Probably something that I think I've touched on it in the several workshops we've had with all my fellow councillors, with percentage in particular. It's a bit of a double-edged sword when you think about it. If you start to look at percentage increase or decrease of rates, if we actually theoretically increased our rate percentage higher, it actually decreases the percentage of income of our rates that is spent on staff. So when people sort of, and I think you sort of hit this pretty well, Councillor Newell, when people look to say we have 50 or 40% of rates spent on staff, if our rates increase, that percentage drops. It doesn't change the amount of staff we have, or if we lower that rate increase, the amount we spend on staff changes as well. It doesn't actually, yeah, it's hard to explain, but the percentage isn't the important variable in this report. It's actually the dollar amount we spend on staff that's the important number to concern yourself with, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, councillors. I couldn't add anything extra to what's already been said around the table, to be honest. So what I'll do is I'll ask you to summarise. You have an opportunity to do some closing remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to see there's a general consensus in this room by other councillors and understand exactly where you're coming from. I put this out there for a discussion, and I believe that it's been very well answered. And the other thing I'd like to say, Mayor, is I congratulate the previous financial team and director, and also previous members of this council in listening to the publicity that's been going around the state of recent times and some of the other increases to other councils which have been proposed. I think this council is one of the most buoyant councils and better councils in a better position than most in the state. So I congratulate all previous and present financial members. But the point I'm trying to make here is I believe that we should put some more effort into the coalface and get some more money out there for the people and the roads. That is the point that I'm trying to make here. And I thank you very much for listening and taking my time and commenting on my amendment there.
Thanks, Councillor May. Thank you. All right, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour of that amended motion, please raise your hand. Did you want to? Yeah, okay, right. All right, all those against the motion? Sorry. Are you abstaining, Councillor O'May, or are you going to vote against the amended motion? You abstain? You're abstain. You're abstain? Yep, thank you. I'll have to read it out. So, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Newell, Councillor Lovell, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Prince are against, and the Mayor is against, and an abstain from Councillor O'May, which is a no, I know. I know it's against, but I know, yes. All right, thank you. So we now go back to the actual recommendation. So can I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Newell, a seconder please. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Newell, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, Mayor. As I previously said to Councillor O'May's motion, we've done 3 or 4 workshops on this. David's doing a great job in trying to get us back into surplus. Now, we're working on 8 to 9 years to be able to do that, and I think that's really a good result considering we've had COVID. I did a few sums on this 4.95% rate increase, and for the layman, the average rate increase will be around $1 a week. And I honestly think the community, for what you're getting out of your council now with doctor surgeries, with the childcare centres, with playgrounds and footpaths, the Franklin foreshore projects, so many things on the go, I think it's great value, a great budget result. I mean, you're looking at 15% Glamorgan Spring Bay. We're in a much better position. We're doing a great job. So that's over and out from me.
All right, thank you. Ta. To the floor. Any other? Yes, Councillor Prince.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in. I'll try not to get too close to the mic. I'd like to speak in support of the motion. I will be up front. I probably fought for a bit of a higher percentage to try and remove that future deficit or lower the years. But after several fairly compelling and convincing workshops, I'm happy with the percentage we've arrived at. And 2 things sort of particular here. One is one good, one bad, I think. And I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, that we're able to fund the 0.6 position of a youth worker for council. Why I think that's really important, well, if this gets approved, we will. Why I think that's really important is a lot of people often will ask me, I don't get anything for my rates, and sometimes that certainly feels true. But if you ever see the amazing work that the youth services at this council provide to young people in this area, like that's where I go to. I'd like to think every dollar of my rates goes into that, and that makes me feel great about paying my rates, because it does take a community to raise the next generation, and it is really important that if you're not sure where your rates are going, that you can know there are brilliant things like that are supporting disadvantaged young people in the area, and that should make you feel really proud about paying your rates. The other one is, and it's something I'm very aware of, that long term this council is going to have some challenges with our road infrastructure, and in order to improve roads we're going to have to spend money, and one of the mechanisms a council generates money is via rates and rates increases. So I'm very aware that in the future, at some point, we either have to decide, are we happy with the standard of our roads, or do we want to increase or find a revenue of income to increase the standard of our roads? So for people who've been emailing me or messaging me about that, keep doing it. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to build up as big a picture as I can, so thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Councillor Prince. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor O'May.
Yes, I'd just like to endorse. Yes, thank you, Mayor, for you. I'd just like to endorse Councillor Prince's comments there. The majority of my concerns that I have from the general public is in regards to roading, and in just the last few days, some major concerns from school bus drivers on some of our country routes, dirt road routes, are really struggling. I know we've had some inclement weather in the last couple of weeks, as we know, but yeah, the roads are very substandard to the point where it's dangerous in some cases by the size of the potholes. So I want to endorse Councillor Prince's comments there, and I think we really should be acting sooner rather than later on that issue.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. And, focusing on the recommendation that's in front of us, Councillor Campbell.
Yes, I think that it's really important with the roads issue. I certainly know that the Acting Director of Infrastructure is really doing a great job behind the scenes and getting things back into, a manageable maintenance program. We've got a lot of roads and, I think just little by little, it is important for people for the roads. I mean, we see all the time the work that needs doing, and I've certainly noticed that around my area, and it's really difficult. So I think if we're on the right track now, and I think we're getting a good program together. So thank you very much.
Okay. There's some talk around the asset renewal process about roads, and that's why the councillors are talking about roads at the moment, is because it's part of the budget reports. Councillor Gibson, then Councillor Doyle.
I think all ratepayers have different areas where they feel like they're getting value for money in the rates, and I think it is important that we don't let the core things such as roads slip, and I'm pleased that we've got $50,000 put aside for us to help with the service review, because I think that's important to keep track of that. And otherwise, I'm happy with the annual plan and the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I think we can talk about the roads, and definitely I understand that, but I think waste, we all knew that waste was going to be a major issue for us, and just today I seen bins over that were council, like to be picked up and then fell over and the rubbish was everywhere. And yet we expect state growth to pick that up. It's our rubbish. So there is a rubbish issue, and, we're going to have to be prepared to pay for that through our rates.
Right. Councillor Lovell, did you wish to speak on this one? Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Director for the report, for the workshops that we've had on this. There was a lot of time and effort, I know, on your behalf, but you did listen to all of us with our concerns, which we were bringing from ourselves as well as community. And I think this was probably our most involved one so far, I think, with the debate and the, trying to negotiate, I guess, to what we all felt reasonably comfortable with. So I'm actually pretty proud that we came to a decision with it. So, yeah,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before we go to closing remarks from Councillor Newell, I just have, I suppose, just overarching, yes, the other expenses increases $548,000, $406,000 of that being related to waste levy, $75,000 progress of community vision, which is a new with a new strategic and annual plan framework, and we know that's been under consideration since the 2019-20 budget, so it needed to happen, and it's happening. And also $50,000, as was outlined by Councillor Gibson, about the strategic review of services. What I did, and so yes, the bin charges have gone up as well. The public will notice that, and the fees and charges. So I would suggest that your landfill bin, if you've got a large one and you don't fill it up very much, and it's a weekly service, why not trade down to a smaller bin, a smaller size landfill bin, and you'll save yourself, I think it's about $90. Yes, $90 per annum just by changing down to a small landfill bin. We can all do things to help ourselves, I suppose. The other thing that I wanted to ask a question through the General Manager of the Director, just to explain the depreciation. So what I noticed when I was looking at the annual plan, or not the annual plan, it was the annual, yeah, it might have been the annual plan, and looking at the treatment of depreciation in the current financial year compared to the financial year that we are looking at today, the coming one, the amount of a reduction in depreciation last time, so the current financial year, compared to the increase in depreciation for this financial year was pretty much on par, the same sort of dollars. So decreased by 802,000. So it was, sorry, the budget depreciation increased of 802,000 with 665k due to unsealed roads accounting to treatment. And in the 21-21 financial year, depreciation expense was forecast to decrease by 858,000 due to the revaluations of the roads and building asset classes, a change in accounting treatment for unsealed roads and estimates for additions, indexation of asset values and further asset class revaluations. So through you, General Manager, I'd just like to be able to understand that almost the same amount of dollars, one financial year, a decrease by that, and then the following financial year, an increase by pretty much a similar amount of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm more than happy to answer that. So we're talking about the depreciation table on page 21 of 97 of the attachment.
Thank you.
And so we just need to go back in time just a fraction. So this time last year when we prepared the budget, we prepared it on the basis of a change of accounting practice with respect to unsealed roads. And that is, we proposed to expense all costs in relation to unsealed roads, be they maintenance costs or the resheeting program. And this was proposed on the basis that it was a bit uncertain as to whether a resheeting program could be regarded as creating an asset, i.e. the new sheet on top of the road, which would then get capitalised and depreciated. And so the basic question is, when we do that work, is the activity primarily maintenance in nature, in which case we would expense it to the profit and loss account, or is it more in the nature of capital, creating a new asset, in which case we would capitalise the expenditure and then depreciate it over its life? On balance, we felt at the time that it was more of a maintenance activity, and so on that basis, in last year's budget, this year's budget I should say, 12 months ago, we changed that practice and budgeted for to expense all of those costs, and so that led to a decrease in depreciation because we were no longer proposing to capitalise and depreciate. So that was 12 months ago. Unfortunately, our friends at Tassie Audit didn't agree with us. So even though there's not sort of a generally accepted view around this, there's arguments either way as to how to treat this expenditure. They took a different view and considered that an asset is being created, which would need to be depreciated. So here we are 12 months on, and depreciation expense goes up again. So it's basically a reversal of what we did last year.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that. All right, Councillor Newell, do you have any closing remarks?
No, Mayor, I think it's all been said.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the next report, which is Bylaws Review, Miscellaneous Amendments Bylaw, agenda number 15.013/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendations of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Lovell, a seconder please. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening remarks, please?
No, I don't, Mayor. I was happy with this one.
All right, thank you. Over to the floor. Any comments? No? Oh, yes, Councillor Gibson.
I had a question through you, Mayor.
Thank you.
To the Director, maybe. We had a discussion about the tiny houses. I just wondered whether there was any way that we as a council could ask state planning to provide a process for approval of tiny houses or a leasing arrangement or something. But I guess the question is, what would be the process around that?
Through you, Mayor, I might take that one rather than Director of Environment and Development Services. So this has raised an issue which we as officers believe need to be addressed. So at the moment we're looking at potential putting something up to council to put forward through the GAT so that we can get that sort of discussion occurring, because I suspect it's not only us that is dealing with it, so that will likely come in the next couple of months, that report.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, comments? Councillor Campbell, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, and I'll probably go to the Director. I looked at the homeless, which is included in the miscellaneous bylaws. I suppose there's a concern, that statewide we're experiencing a lot of homelessness. We seem a little bit unable to deal with it. Certainly in Hobart they're working really hard on it, but down here it does seem a bit of a problem, and the concern is, I see that you've actually put in here that if they can demonstrate a defence early, it may mean that they're not prosecuted, basically. How do you actually define someone as being homeless?
So I refer you to the bylaw amendment itself. So it is defined in clause 12 of the proposed amendment bylaw. So homeless is a very broad definition, which was based upon the definition that Hobart placed into their bylaw.
What page, sorry, Director?
So it is on page 19.
Of 30. Yep. Okay.
So the definition is based upon work that Hobart City Council did and is put through the GAT and encouraging councils to adopt. So homeless means the person is sleeping rough or living in an improvised dwelling. A person is temporarily living with friends, relatives, has no other usual address and does not have capacity to obtain other suitable accommodation. The person has no safe place to live, including if the person is at risk of experiencing domestic violence. The person is living in accommodation provided by a specialist homeless service. The person is living in a refuge, shelter or similar crisis accommodation. The person is living in a caravan park, boarding house, hostel or similar accommodation, on a short or long-term basis in respect to which person has no secure lease and the person is not living in that accommodation by choice. So it is very broad.
It just seems that it's sort of one of those things that's a bit circular in some ways, and how do we as a council, I suppose, address it to the best of our ability, because it seems like it just sits there as the big elephant, and and I suppose that's why people are suggesting tiny homes, all that sort of thing. But I suppose because it keeps coming up across the state, it is a concern for us, I think.
Yes, and I can't necessarily speak on behalf of other directors, but I do know that when compliance officers come into contact with people in that situation, there's contact put through to community services. They engage contact with social services. So there is a process that is undertaken in quite a compassionate way. So
Great.
It's not something we just go out and get off our land.
Yeah, thanks, Director. Thank you.
If I could just add something further, I'm aware that our cleaners, for example, go to toilet blocks very early in the morning, and they have encountered people that have been sleeping there, and they contact the staff number, the council number straight away to bring all that into action straight away, so that they're supported.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, Councillor Doyle.
Through you, Mayor, I also know Councillor Campbell that queries have been made, and if you're a Category 1, you have a 12-month wait for a house, which means that, the bigger picture of state, federal, whatever, shouldn't all fall back onto, unless they're going to do something for us to help us, which we want to do. It's just how we do it. So,
Okay. There's only, it looks like, 3 councillors that haven't spoken. All right, ready to go to vote? Okay, all right, we'll do that. All right, so a closing remark though from Councillor Lovell. Do you have any? No? All right. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next report is proposed establishment of a Risk and Finance Committee, agenda number 15.014/21. I'll refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report, but please note that on number 63 of this report, it does state if there are further matters that councillors wish to be discussed in relation to this matter, then it is recommended that no decision be made on this report and it be held over by procedural motion to allow a workshop discussion to ensure the direction of the council is clear and supporting advice can be provided. Okay. And then just to let you know that if there is a procedural motion, that no discussion can occur on that matter. Yes,
I'd like to put up a motion that we delay it and have a workshop on it.
So you would like to put forward a procedural motion to defer the item?
Defer the item and have a workshop on this item and talk about it in depth with the manager and the appropriate staff.
Is there a seconder? Sorry, now a seconder, Councillor. Yeah, okay. Councillor, I'll have Councillor May down there. All right, so all those, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand to defer. Can you leave your hands up, please, because we do have a councillor that isn't joining us there. So we have Councillor Doyle, Councillor Newell, Councillor May, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Lovell, Councillor Gibson and Councillor Enders as for. And against, please, we have Councillor Prince that's against. Thank you. We now move to the Land Strategy 15 Silver Hill Road Signet, agenda number 15.015/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report, but also remind councillors that there is an alternative motion that's in front of them that I have spoken to them about, which reads, the report on the Land Strategy 15 Silver Hill Road Signet be received and noted. And B, the future of the council-owned land at 15 Silver Hill Road, Signet be considered as part of an assessment public open space land in Signet. So councillors, whoever moves this motion will need to actually specify whether they are moving the recommendation or moving the alternative recommendation. Sorry, Councillor May was first, sorry, and then Councillor Lovell was second. Sorry? Oh, yes, which one are you moving? Sorry?
Yes. The second one, thank you, Mayor.
The alternative,
yes.
The alternative,
that we
put it
off till we discuss it.
All right, sorry, a seconder now. Councillor Newell? Sorry, yes, thank you for that, General Manager. So, would you like to speak on the alternative motion or open straight to the floor? It's up to you.
Not at all, Mayor. I just think there's no dignity in haste, and this matter should be discussed a little bit more before we push it through, as I think it's, a bit loose-ended. Honestly.
Right, okay, thank you. Open to the floor now. Councillor Gibson and then Councillor Campbell.
Yes, I'd like to speak in support of this alternative motion on the basis that we really do need to make a full assessment of the open space in Signet, and I think that you never get open space back when it goes, so it's very precious and we should really be thinking about it very carefully. That particular area is getting a lot more kids and families in there. It's developing quite fast, and I think a proper assessment of that and how it links with the other open spaces in Signet would be very good.
All right, thank you. Councillor Campbell, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I concur with Councillor Gibson. I think it's really important to actually get a master plan for Signet, because we need to pull in, all the land that is there and actually make a good assessment of what needs to be done. And I know that this particular area, with the subdivision that's in there, is actually quite dense, the subdivision. So, you know, if we want to sort of keep that land and look at what's available for, you know, use by young families, I think it's really good to delay until we get that land strategy worked out.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Prince.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the character of Signet is one of Signet's greatest assets, and I think this alternative motion really does or will help keep that character, hopefully. So, yeah, I support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors that haven't spoken that would like to speak? Okay, let's have a look here. Oh, I didn't write it down. Councillor May, do you have any closing comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Campbell and Gibson's comments there. I think it is very important in this day and age that we have somewhere for the kids to get off the street and go and hang out and play football or whatever. I don't think rushing into passing this is in anybody's better interest, especially the community of Signet. So we'll leave it at that, I think so.
Right, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. So we now move to the General Manager's recruitment panel. So councillors, there's a recommendation and also an alternative recommendation for councillors to consider this evening. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Lovell. Do I have someone to... Which motion are you going to select? Sorry, my apologies.
Could I please move the alternative motion?
The alternative motion you'll be moving? Okay. A seconder? Right, thank you. Councillor Prince, thank you. And that motion requires us to go through an election process of a new panel member. Refer to attachment A on that particular matter. So the alternative reads, the report on filling a vacancy in the General Manager's recruitment panel be received and noted. The councillor member vacancy in the General Manager recruitment panel be elected at this meeting through the processes set out in attachment A of this report, which you should have in front of you, I think. Yeah. And so I will call, first of all, for nominations. No? Do I have to carry it right the way through, do I? Oh, sorry, my apologies.
The motion needs to be resolved.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much for that.
And is there room for questions on...
Yeah, okay, all right, got you, I understand, all right. Joanne, did you want to make any comments, opening statements regarding that motion? Alternative motion? No? All right, okay. So questions then from the floor? Yes, Councillor Gibson?
I had a question actually going back to the previous appointment of the committee, just through you, Mayor, to the Director. Could you clarify whether the Mayor and Deputy Mayor should both automatically be put on the committee, or if that was just a recommendation?
Through you, Mayor, certainly the motion, the resolution that was passed by the Council had the Mayor and Deputy Mayor. The reason for that is that the Mayor under the Local Government Act is the leader of the process in relation to recruitment of the General Manager, and in the absence of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor is. So it provides for consistency on that panel. What you have before you in this particular one is simply a vacancy in the panel.
Yeah, I've got another statement on that. That wasn't my understanding, Matt. We were virtually told that the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor had to be on that recruitment panel. That's why we didn't vote for the three spots.
So through you, Mayor, that is correct. So the advice and recommendation was that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor were on that panel as a right of office for the reasons that I've just stated.
So advice from who?
The professional advice from officers.
Oh, so it wasn't local government, like a legislation item, it was just a recommendation, was it, from?
It was a recommendation based upon the fact that the Local Government Act provides that the Mayor is the leader of the process, and the Deputy Mayor acts as Mayor in the absence of the Mayor. So therefore it provides consistency in the recruitment panel process.
well, maybe I was the only one, but I was a bit under the impression that it just had to be those two plus another two, rather than it could be just the mayor and 3 is voted onto that committee.
Through your mayor.
Because if the mayor
The
is...
difficulty with answering this is that some of that advice was provided in a report which was in closed council. But I can state the fact, as I just stated, that was the basis and reasoning for the recommendation, which was in that report.
Councillor Campbell.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I actually rang Legat because I need to be sure about, what my responsibility is. And I was told by Dion Lester that both Mayor and Deputy Mayor, the councillors decide who goes on the committee. They're not automatically on the committee. This is according to Legat. And so he was saying that you can understand why the mayor's on there, but he said every other person should be voted on. And I was simply finding out that information because for me I have to have the facts and the right facts, and I actually was a bit unclear, so I rang them to find out, and that was Leon Lester's statement to me. So, yeah.
Are you asking another question? Are you trying to clarify a point that was made?
No,
because
I wanted to make
you get one opportunity to...
Oh, that was a question originally?
Yeah.
Can I not make a
comment?
Comment?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I'd like to foreshadow an alternative motion that we defer this committee vote to a future special meeting and throw the committee open to a new process of voting for the whole committee.
So any sitting members?
And I would like for democracy to have a full council, so wait until we have the new appointee, whoever that is, from the electoral roll included in the process.
Councillor O'May?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second that proposal of Councillor Gibson's. I think this is one of the most important decisions that we're going to make probably in our council term, and I believe that we should be having a pretty good think about it. I know some of the reasons that's been put out there why we shouldn't do that. I don't think that they're justifiable, as I don't think cost really comes into this one way or another, whether we're paying for one general manager or not. So I just believe that Paul has really hit the nail on the head there. I think it's very important, and I think we really should be having an all-in on this and thrash it out and really get our point across that we have to have a good general manager. Is very important for the vote.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, gotcha, okay. Sorry, just working out the process. You would like to make a comment?
Yes, Mayor, through you, Mayor. I can I understand, Paul, where you're coming from, but what difference, like every one of us that are on this, in as councillors, are here for the same reason. We want to, bring in a new good general manager. So I can't understand why you'd think now that we need to change what we had. I mean, the process was followed. So, I mean, I just believe that what difference is it going to make by changing the people that are on there? Because the people that are there now are sitting councillors just like everybody else.
And so, and I can't have debate going on, by the way, guys, as in...
So I don't have any response to that.
I think you've made it very clear, I suppose, where your position is.
But I do have a response if...
Yeah,
if
all right, go
I
ahead.
mean, just the fact that Councillor Wilson's own votes and all of the votes that went for him are not valid in a way, that's one thing. I mean, I think you just need to follow good democratic process. And so, yeah, I just think... And it was a bit messy around the fact that the mayor was running for the state, and so everything's been a bit here and there. I just think we should draw a line and start again from scratch. That's my reasoning.
So, can I just ask for advice then? Is this about rescinding the decision that was made? I'm just thinking, how long is it going to take if we have to come back to council to then go and rescind? Should it be rescinded tonight?
So through you, Mayor, if the effect of such a motion that is foreshadowed would be an overturning and a rescission of the previous decision.
Yeah.
So therefore, before that could be considered, we need to give you certain advice under the meeting procedures regulations. I should point out that the committee was appointed by resolution of the council, which included the mayor, the deputy mayor and 2 councillors to be elected. That was the decision of the council. If you wish to overturn that, if I can just go to the section there. So we would have to give you the information that the proposed motion, if resolved in the affirmative, not that we have a motion on the books at the moment, would overturn the previous decision. The details of the previous decision, as I have just stated, whether or not that previous decision or part of the previous decision, that certain action be taken, certain action was taken, the recruitment panel was formed based upon that resolution. And if that previous decision or part of that previous decision directed that certain action be taken, advice as to whether or not that action had been wholly or substantially carried out, the recruitment panel is in the middle of a recruitment process, so it is partly carried out. So that is the information that you will need to know if you consider the foreshadowed motion.
Did everybody get that?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say we're in the middle of the recruitment process because we haven't even seen one name yet. Yeah, we've done nothing. We've done nothing.
With respect, the recruitment panel was charged with a number of activities which started with finalising position descriptions, engaging a recruitment agency. The panel is in the middle of a process that it was being asked to do.
We came to council with that decision, though, and council made that decision, Matt. But what I think the crux of it is here, I think there's a grey area as far as the initial, the mayor and deputy mayor have to be on, and we only choose 2. And we've chosen Mike. He's gone now. I agree with Paul. In 5 days, we'll have a new member of council. That member might be highly qualified in the hiring and firing of people. She could, he or she could have great experience, and I think we need to vote a fresh panel. And I'm prepared to rescind my position to do that.
Okay, so let's look at the procedural matter here that we have in front of us. So we have Councillor Lovell, who has moved the alternative motion. Then we have asked for a procedural motion on top of that. Did we get a seconder for Councillor Lovell?
Through you, Mayor, the seconder was...
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Councillor Prince.
Councillor Prince, okay. So we need to take that to the vote first of all to see what happens, and then we proceed down the next track. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so I think we've had enough discussion. Councillor Lovell, you're happy to go straight to the vote? Yep, all right, thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the alternative motion, if you could put your hand up, please. So I put the motion. So that's Mayor Enders, Councillor Doyle and Councillor Lovell and Councillor Prince. And then those against, if you could put your hands up. There is, Councillor May, sorry, too close. Councillor May, Councillor Newell, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Gibson. That makes it 4 even, which means that it's lost. Okay. Now we go to the, now are we calling it a procedural motion or are we?
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Gibson foreshadowed a motion.
A foreshadowed motion.
So just ask on him to move the motion.
All right, if you'd like to move that motion and then we'll get a seconder. Yeah, make it clear. Thank you.
I move that we call a special meeting immediately after the new councillor is appointed to the council by the Electoral Commission, and that we appoint a committee for the recruitment of the General Manager at that meeting.
Second that motion.
And okay, so that motion seconded by Councillor Newell. And any discussion? Yes, Councillor Gibson. Sorry, Prince. My apologies.
Through you, Mayor. As many of you will be aware, I'll be on leave from very early July until August. Just as a reminder to everyone, something that if we are considering doing this with a full council as a special meeting, it will effectively be delayed till after August. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prince. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, through you, Mayor. The concern I had when I rang Legat was the fact that Councillor Wilson was ineligible to be on the panel from the 12th of April. He had a month's grace to fill out that the form. He didn't choose to do that. So in actual fact, there were only 2 members at that stage on the recruitment panel, and to me that is actually a deficient panel. It's actually not legal as far as I can see. So that's my concern, because we elected for 4 people to be on the panel, and I just think we should follow proper process and have the correct number of people, which is actually 4 on the panel. And it's been a bit of a concern because, you know, there have been times when there's only been 3, and I think that that to me is a serious error with with Councillor Wilson being ineligible from the 12th of April.
Just a quick one from me. Just to reply to Councillor Prince, I think we will know who the new councillor is next Wednesday, 28th on the afternoon. I think we could easily have the meeting next Thursday or Friday, if we could all come in for an hour, get it done, and then you can happily go on holidays, mate.
Work.
Sorry? Work. Going on work, eh? Yeah, but I just honestly think for the community that are looking at us, for transparency, for honesty and openness, we all need to have a vote on our merits. I mean, each councillor has got different skills, and we're on different committees that we're familiar with or better at than others. There's no, I don't think there's any egos involved in this. It's simply trying to get the right panel members openly and honestly in front of the public to make the most important selection and appointment that this council has to make, which is the Commander-in-Chief. He's the boss. We have to get it right, or it could cost us a fortune, it could cost us morale, it could cost us, you know, so much. So I just want to, I'd just like to have a fresh one. Thank you.
Councillor May.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to further Councillor Newell's comments, and I alluded to them a bit earlier in this conversation. I just want to bring it to everybody's attention. We're running over a $20 million business here. Somebody like to dispute those numbers if they like, but that's the way I see things. And it's $20 million of the public's money. We have to get this right. We have to get the confidence of the people, knowing that we've done our due diligence in the appointment of the most important person that is running this organisation. I believe we have to put a little bit more thought into it than just push it through tonight. And I think Councillor Newell has hit the nail right on the head, and along with Councillor Gibson, as well as Councillor Campbell, suggesting that it was unlawful, the previous committee. So I think taking all these things into consideration, I believe that it's very utmost of urgency that we prolong this until whatever day which suits us all, as Councillor Prince has suggested he has to work. I have to work too, but I'm going to have to take a day off because I think this is the most important time that we have on this council to appoint the General Manager.
Okay. All right.
So
I think everybody has spoken.
I agree with this process. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have to say.
You haven't spoken on this particular
Hasn't
round?
spoken to it yet.
Okay.
Well, I'll get closing anyway, so I can say that.
Ah, okay, all right.
Is that we ready to close?
About, yeah. So I don't necessarily agree with all of the reasons why. However, I'm not going to let a vote fail again. If there are half the councillors here in the room who are so in disagreement with the recommendation that they approved at the time, that they endorsed at the time, I would be concerned that the incoming General Manager may not be successful because of the way that some councillors feel in the room. And I want a General Manager to be set up for success and be embraced by the full council. And it is for that reason, and that reason alone, that I will vote in support of the motion that is here in front of us, is because it's all about the General Manager and their acceptance and us being welcome, all of us being welcome to the new General Manager. So, closing comment, Councillor Gibson.
Just in closing, for me, it's all about a proper democratic process and a good representation on the panel.
All right. Let's go to the vote. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is Councillor Newell, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Prince, Councillor O'May and Councillor Enders. Thank you. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Just quickly, Mayor, in relation to that, just to correct, I think all going well, it'll be known on Monday, not Wednesday next week.
Right.
There'll need to be time to prepare a report, call a meeting, which you could call with 2 days, that sort of stuff. Probably the earliest we could do would be Friday, but we'll consult with you. It might be pushed on the next week, depending on a whole bunch of things that get in the way of that. But we'll start preparing for that special meeting, but just we'll be targeting Fridays just through that discussion, but it might, for a whole range of reasons, might have to be the following week.
All right, good, thank you.
Can I ask Councillor Prince, what would be your last possible date that you could attend
Through the mayor,
a
yes.
special meeting?
Through the mayor.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's hard to give you a specific because the flights are subject to late notice change due to COVID. And just it's a matter to do with the ADF and training, which is where I'll be going, and why I can't be super specific about it. Friday is likely to work, but it's not a guarantee.
Yep,
So,
no worries, thanks.
All right, so we move on to the next report, the financial report, 16.009/21, and file reference 10/06. I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Gibson, a seconder, please. Councillor Campbell, thank you. Okay, Councillor Gibson, do you have any opening remarks?
No, I don't in this case. I'm happy with the report.
All right, thank you. Open to the floor, questions, comments? Yes, Councillor Prince.
It's an almost identical question to the one I had last month.
So through you, Mayor, with regards to the amount of money spent on the resealing of Mountain River Road, are we still waiting on further invoices, or has it come up well under budget? Which is page 7 of 12.
Through you, Mayor, the Mountain River Road is a rolling program, so there's expenditure allocated for a number of years, similar vein to how Esperance Coast Road. So each of the stages has a varying financial requirement, and the money that's not spent rolls into the next year's allocation for that same road.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions regarding this financial report? Yes?
Yes, Mayor. I'd just like to ask a question in regards to the Taswater dividends and this financial report and preempting further dividends. Is there any, probably to the Director of Finance or Legal Services, is there any indication that the Taswater dividend is going to be made up in the retrospect loss from last year? Are there any rumours in that regard at all, are there? Or I'm just trying, what I'd like to see, and where I'm getting at, you know, like the Capital Works program, and as Councillor Pringe has indicated, and I've indicated on several occasions this evening, is trying to get some more money into roadworks. So I'm just trying to work out where we can potentially obtain those funds without taking it from the people.
I did get an acknowledgement from the Director of Corporate Services who would like to respond. Thank you, David.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. So in relation to Taswater, I think I said last month that they'd indicated they might be able to pay a further dividend for this year, and they have. So we've received that this month. So we've now received a 50% dividend for this year. You'll recall we came into the year expecting nil. They've issued their corporate plan for the next 4-year period, I think it is. And in that they have indicated, depending on profitability, as always, a return to full dividends next year, and that's what we've budgeted for in the budget you've just adopted. They've also identified in their corporate plan that they may be able to pay retrospectively the dividend that we've all missed out on this year, so the 50% that we didn't get this year. And I think they're flagging they might do that sort of in piecemeal kind of basis over the next 4 or even 5. I'm not too sure about that, but I do just preface that on the basis that, as always, will be based upon their profitability.
Are you seeking clarity, or are you making a comment?
I'd just like to make a comment, if that's possible, Mayor.
Yes.
The comment I'd like to make is if these retrospective funds do become available, I'd just like to get in early, and if there's any chance that we can direct them to the Acting Director of Roads over there.
Oh, you did something wrong.
So that we can potentially get some more work done on our roading. So that's all I've got to say there. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Any councillors that haven't made any comments, if they would like to? No? Okay. Look, I just got a comment before Councillor Gibson closes. That's just that I notice a lot of unfavourable variances in the budget, particularly in community development. And I am aware that a lot of it does relate to reserves as well. So reserves means that there is money. And so and it might appear that there's a lot of overruns because they're in the red, and and I was, through you, General Manager, I was just wanting to get some explanation, more so for the public, around why the reports look like the way they do. And why the reports look like the way they do in the red, and how the reserves work. So they're not necessarily unfavourable. There's money there from reserves. I'm going to confuse the situation, so I would like to put it to the appropriate skilled professional. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So think the best place to start is an explanation of what the reserves are. The first thing to be said is that reserves do get approved by council. So I think it's in September or October last year, council approved the reserves to be brought forward. Some of those reserves are for capital purposes, so it's unspent capital funds. So obviously at 30 June each year, not all projects are complete. It's unrealistic to expect that at this magic date called 30 June every year, all our project work will be, and capital works will be done. So a lot of those reserves are for capital purposes. But we also have what's known as operating reserves, and so that is where sort of programs may not be complete at 30 June. So for a variety of reasons, we seek approval from council to carry forward those funds into the following financial year so they can be spent and then those programs can continue. So that's all well and fine. The effect of that, of course, though, is that when you roll into that new financial year, that additional expenditure shows up as a variance because it's not part of the budget. And that's what's been happening and giving rise to some of the variances in the report here. All of those amounts, all of those reserves that we have brought forward are detailed in the report in note O, which is on page 5, I think it was.
Other expenses.
Yep, page 5 of 12, and they total $330,000. Be fair to say, I'm not a huge fan of these operating reserves. Now, I think it's fair that we probably treat them as an exception. I think for public accountability and other reasons, I think we should try and get our programs delivered in the financial year that we've budgeted for and put them into the annual plan for. I fully understand that that's not always possible. So I think there are valid circumstances on occasion for us to have these operating reserves and roll them into the following financial year. But I do have a view that we should try and limit that as much as possible for the very reason that you have raised. It gives rise to a variance in the following year. Having said that, there may well be some ways that we can perhaps present these reports a little better to make those reserves more obvious, so that the variance that's shown is a true variance in inverted commas, and I'm more than happy to look at that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks very much. All right, Councillor Gibson, closing remarks?
Oh, once again, I'd like to thank the Director for the clarity of the document and the clarity of the answers. You know, hearing that the reports are going to get better again is always good. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Can I be excused then?
Yes, you certainly can. Thank you. So Councillor Newell leaving at what time, Sandy? 7:52. All right. Thank you very much. And just to let you know that Councillor, no, he won't be coming back. He's left the meeting. Thank you. All right, there is an amendment just in our report. So it says here that we will be acting as a planning authority. And no, it doesn't for yours. Okay, it's only for mine. Okay, so it is in theirs? Okay, all right. Okay, so the matter that we have before us, this report 9 Bull Oak Way Grove, the consent request is actually not a planning authority matter. So we're not going into planning and then out of it afterwards. All right.
We're not going to what?
We're not going into being a planning authority.
Okay.
All right. So you won't, yeah. So the agenda number for that is 17.011/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? That's Councillor Doyle, followed by Councillor Gibson as a seconder. Councillor Doyle. Oh, my apologies, Councillor Prince. Thank you. I must separate the two of you. Okay. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I've looked all through this and I'm happy with the recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Gibson.
I have a question to the Director through you, Mayor.
Yes.
I just was wondering if you could outline why the covenant was there and I guess just a slight, I mean, there seems to be a whole lot of trees where that driveway and shed are going to go. Was the purpose of the covenant to protect those trees, or was it something else?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Through you, Mayor. Councillor Gibson. Yeah, look, if you flick through to page 8 of 15, on the attachments, you'll see a map. Just wait till you get there. So you see all the shaded areas. So they're specific reserve vegetation areas that are to be protected, which is I think the core nature of that covenant. I think fortunately for this request, the lot in question is lot 20 in the centre there. So it doesn't include any of that reserve vegetation. Yeah.
Is that the really small one?
Yes, yeah, the little one in the middle there with number 20 on it. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Any councillors that might not have spoken that would like to? Okay. Councillor Doyle, any closing remarks?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So we now go to 4-foot road natural area management plan, agenda number 17.012/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Lovell. A seconder is Councillor O'May. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening remarks?
I was just really happy with this one, that the NRM unit's taking it on. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from... Yes, Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I reiterate that I'm very pleased to see that long buffer along the river is there with, I think there's a lot of potential in that area, so that's excellent that got added in.
Yeah, good, thank you. Councillor O'May, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention one thing, Mayor, and I'm quite happy with this plan. The only thing I would like to mention here is, since the block that's going to be adjoining this is going to be potentially a rural block, from my point of view, coming from a farming fraternity, I would just like to see an easement or a small access way there, so that if somebody does choose to use this block as part of their rural enterprise, that they have some form or way of means to be able to water their stock or animals. I don't think it's a great ask that there's a small provision there for watering of animals. I don't know how that sits with this plan. I think it's a great, having all of us been down and visited the block, I think it's a great opportunity to have that area saved for the people of Chieftain, and the landscape there. But I just believe that we should have some small provision there that the purchaser of the block has an opportunity to be able to obtain water.
Yeah, so through the General Manager, I think the Director of Governance would like to respond.
Through you, Mayor, certainly we've got to undertake a subdivision which will create the strip and connection between the walking track and the land at 4-foot road. There would be areas there which would be more than suitable for, they don't have the sensitive habitat, so that would be more than suitable for the opportunity for a pipeline. So it's something we can consider as part of the subdivision process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a great response.
Good. All right, thank you. Any other? No? Okay, so Councillor Lovell, any closing remarks?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, lovely. So I'll put to the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now go to the Southern Tasmanian Regional Cat Management Strategy, agenda number 17-013/21. I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report. And do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Campbell, a seconder, please. Councillor Prince. Thank you. Councillor Campbell, any opening remarks?
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to ask, I'm not sure who it will be, but the strategy was produced from input from councils, key partners and industry stakeholders. Just interested in the stakeholders, people like the Tasmanian Cat Management Project, the RSPCA, 10 Lives, Cat Centre. Just what is their, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what is their, I suppose, desire for cats in being euthanised? I mean, it's a difficult subject, but is there I suppose, an understanding that sometimes it's really necessary? I mean, I know that, when you're protecting animals, it's just a general question. What was the feeling within the group?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So through me to yes. Thank you, Director of Environment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, it's a difficult one to answer. I'm not personally on the group. The Manager of Environmental Services is. I'd probably have to refer to her if you're interested in what the general feel of those participants were. But I think more broadly, I think there is an acceptance that some animals do need to be put down. As hard as it is, that sometimes that's the only solution to it. So, look, I think there is a general acceptance of that, and obviously everyone wants to do that as humanely as possible when it has to occur. I can't really speak on behalf of what those other organisations really have a view on it. Although having said that, they are organisations that are also endorsing this strategy that we're talking about. So you would have to assume that they're on board with the strategy as well.
Oh, thank you for that. I just, looking at, the, problem we have with particularly feral cats, it's such a big issue for councils and the lack of resources. And so it's sort of a bit like a circular, you try to do a strategy, but, if you've got people on opposite sides, but it sounds like there's an understanding that, often it's really necessary, particularly feral cats. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to make a statement that I think Andy Waterhouse will be very happy with this going through. I give Andy all the ticks for his actual effort in understanding everything to do with this, and his concern is very, very valid with wildlife, and I commend him for always sticking up for this, getting this. So, thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
As a regular visitor to Bruny Island over the last 15 years, I've seen a really big increase in the number of birds as they get their cats under control. So I think it's something really important for us to work on. I do have a question through you, maybe to the Director, about the possibility of a pilot project using volunteers to implement some of this work, because it's obviously we don't have the money to do very much.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question. I suppose it would depend what you were proposing that they might do. Certainly, there's a lot of educational resources that we can pick up through this group and the coordinator of that group that we can certainly share at very low cost, and that's, as we've foreshadowed within this report, given that we don't have specific resources for it, and the massive expense of trying to catch feral cats is likely to be a short-term focus of ours moving forward. Will be on the education and awareness. And we would be able to get a lot of those resources at little or no cost to share. I think the success on Bruny Island is very genuine. Obviously, being an island greatly assists that. You try to control feral cats in a bigger area, and they just keep coming in from the edges. And obviously, Bruny has the ability to contain that in a smaller area. Having said that, though, we've already had the thought around the potential to declare cat management areas down here, and I think the initial project would probably be around a pilot project with a a subdivider who was willing to go into that approach. So if we have a significant subdivision plan that abuts a significant natural area, I think we'll probably have a chat with the subdivider around if they're willing. Whilst we do have powers to force it, I think as a pilot we'd probably try to find someone that was willing to go down that path to perhaps trial a cat management area. And I'm not talking about banning cats, but like what they've done on Bruni, where they have to either be indoors or within an enclosure, which could help with the fauna benefits with the native animals that live around the area. So certainly I think we're very keen to consider that and look for some opportunities to pilot that.
Can I follow up with one more question? No, it's the same subject. Through you, Mayor. There are people like Andy Waterhouse, and I know quite a few others, who are very keen to help in whatever way. Maybe we could ask people who are interested to come and have a workshop to discuss what might be possible. Would that be?
Not against the idea if there are people that want to come forward and offer their help and support. I think we would probably stay away from volunteers sort of trapping them and going, because there's a lot of flow-on impacts when the animal welfare and the likes that you've got to be careful of. But there may well be activities that they could be involved in, even if it's just sharing some of the educational information and getting those messages out there, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to speak? No? Yes?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to, along with Councillor Doyle here, very much endorse this comment, this document here. I see the effects of toximosis on a lot of the native animals on my property. They go blind and start shaking. It's a horrible way for them to die. So we really have to do something in regards to these feral cats, and cat management. So I think it's a great document. Then.
All right, thank you. All right, I don't have anything to add. So, Councillor Campbell, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, lovely. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is the Community Engagement Summary Report on the Glen Huon Playground Renewal, agenda number 19.007/21. And I refer councillors to debate the recommendation of this report. Do I have someone to move? Councillor Gibson, and seconded by Councillor Campbell. Oh, sorry, Councillor Prince, I've done it again. I do apologise. I don't know why I often get you gentlemen mixed up, but I do apologise. So, Councillor Prince, please proceed.
I'll keep it very brief, or try to. I was first contacted by a number of families about the lack of a fence around this playground in late 2018, shortly after being elected to council. And I've sort of been, I think, over the last couple of years trying to see how we can get funding and get this all up and running. And this is fantastic work from all the staff and everyone to, with the engagement, to end up with this. And I know a lot of people are super wrapped. And I just wanted to say to them and to the staff, thank you so much for your time, your patience, your effort. It's hugely appreciated, and I think there'll be a lot of happy families with this, so well done.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I'm actually delighted to see that there's some form of a swing in there like what's already there, because believe it or not, we've got a lot of older generations that remember that tyre swing like it was a merry-go-round, and they're actually quite distressed to hear that it might be going, and to have that in there, revamped and safe. Yeah, I think that's awesome. It's a real credit. It'll be a real credit to the council there.
Sure. Right, thank you. Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I remember Glen Huon Playground very fondly, taking grandkids there, and the big tyre was, the real event out there. But I think it's we've had great community engagement on it, and it's really nice to see that places like this can be made safe for kids in a playground, because it's very important for outdoor education and just enjoying. So thank you very much, Director.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate the Director because at very late notice we were asked if we could have some smaller priority projects in the state election, and Councillor Lover and myself met Jackie Petrusma and Nick Street at Glen Huon and convinced them that that was a very good one for them to give their money to. So, yeah, thank you, Director, for late notice.
That.
Yes, at late notice.
Any other? Yes, Councillor May.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate the Director. Also, as I drive past this area quite frequently, it is a very well utilised area. It's a lovely little township, Glen Huon, and with a school right there next to it, I believe it's a great achievement. And yeah, I imagine it's going to be very well patronised. So congratulations.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Beyond thanking the staff involved, which has been done a few times, I'd like to thank the public for 135 responses for a playground in a little regional area, obviously very important. And so thank you to them for taking the effort and also rocking up on the day when the staff member was down there. It's a bit lonely being on your own if no one turns up, so thanks for turning up as well for that session. All right, so back to Councillor Prince. Do you have any closing remarks?
Just very much looking forward to taking my kids down for a play at the playground.
All right, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we bid farewell to our guests in the gallery. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
An interesting evening. It's on TV.
All right, bye. Thank you.